It has been tough for many Nigerians since the present administration removed the fuel subsidy. This is evident as the effects of the removal is having a ripple effect on every aspect of human life, from food, transportation, health to social amenities. Now, the organized labor had impressed on the federal government to put in place palliatives to cushion the effects of the removal of the subsidy and in addition increase the salaries of workers. This is what is at the fore today. In August, there was a nationwide protest to press home these demands. The Nigerian Labour Congress is warming up for a two-day strike beginning from Tuesday tomorrow over unresolved issues around the removal of the petrol subsidy by the federal government. We'll be talking about this. We have joining us Debbie Yusuf, Society for Social Justice, a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak, Debbie.
Thank you so much for having me. Just to correct it, I'm a social justice advocate and a political analyst.
All right, this is duly noted, Debbie. Thank you so much. All right, well, let's begin by getting your reaction or your thoughts on the proposed strike by the NLC. I mean, this is 3 months after the removal of subsidy, and so far the NLC said it is not satisfied with the actions of government or the response of government, interventions of government with regards to ameliorating the suffering of the ordinary Nigerians. What do you think of this proposed strike?
Well, I think that it's the right move, and TLC and the TUC and the NLC are making the right move in proposing that strike. Because you must remember, last month when they went on a protest and in making demands, the government had assured that they were going to resolve the issues. But we saw the palliatives, we also saw the palliatives that went round. It's literally nothing to write home about, quite very embarrassing in my opinion. And it seems like there's a lack of will by the federal government to actually solve the issue. But rather, what we see on a daily basis, the masses, the people, are continuously being burdened. The fuel is on high and is high, and we know how that affects every other thing. We know how that affects food. We know how that affects transportation. We know how that affects productivity in the country. Just last week we read on the papers that about a filling station that used to be 40 are now operating just 7. That's as opposed to the 40 that they had. It's now 7. We also read on the papers that the Abuja Kaduna train station is now remitting 1 million naira monthly as opposed to the former 500 million naira that they were remitting. So the issues in this country are so much, and we are seeing the lack of, real interest to actually solve it in the interest of the people. But we're just seeing, the same good old Nigeria, nothing really has changed. There's no renewed hope or whatever.
Debbie, but Debbie, is it fair really to say that nothing has been done? We saw as part of outcome of the National Economic Council, some palliatives have been rolled out to the states. 2 billion naira received by the states as a part payment, and 3 more billion will be sent to the states, making it 5 billion naira for the purchase of grains and some other items to cushion the impact of this suffering. So isn't that something that should count for the government?
I mean, when we're talking about something, we're talking about something that matters, something that's going to have a lasting impact. What lasting impact is a module of rice or 2 module of rice going to have on the citizen? How is that going to help them get to work faster or get to work the next day? How is that sustainable? That's the crux of the matter. That's the crux of the issue. From the onset, my position on the removal of fuel subsidy was it was not a great idea. We shouldn't have removed fuel subsidy. And you can find interviews of me saying that. Because why I said that was the issue we had about fuel subsidy removal was a scam issue. Several papers took it and said, oh, it's scam. and all of that. I'm approaching your office now. So, but at the end of the day, we saw that they removed the fuel subsidy rather than follow the oil fees, and then you're now burdening, increasing the cost of the fuel and all of that. So what I'm saying is that from the onset, the problem was not to remove the fuel subsidy, was to fix the system, remove the loopholes and the gaps. Okay, we are paying subsidy for oils that are not coming in, but to do. Deborah Yusuf. Deborah Yusuf.
Hello, Debbie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so we're happy that this is happening. You know, we're having palliative being distributed to different states of the country. And then we have NLC. This is not the first time they are threatening strike. And when this happened 3 months ago, we heard that they were threatening strike, and then they went in, had a discussion with the government, and it was called off. We still keep having these come up from time to time and time. Do you think that the NLC is representing Nigeria the way it should?
So can you come again? I'm already here, so okay, I'm
saying that this is not the first time we've been hearing we're going on strike, and then the strike will deal with the federal government. God knows what they say in these meetings. And then they come back to say that, you know, we're not going on strike anymore. Let's give the government benefit of the doubt. And a lot of Nigerians have been saying that NLC has not represented Nigeria the best way, Nigerian workers the best way that they should. Do you agree? Do you align with that thought?
Yeah, I don't totally agree with that thought, because, you know, for a long while we've had that, you know, back and forth and distrust. A lot of people have lost trust in NLC, have lost trust in the TUC, because they say one thing and then they do the other. But with I can't remember. I think the last time and I stand to be corrected, the last time I saw a protest by the NLC and TUC was in Kaduna State when they were opposing the high fee when Erifai was governor. And we've not seen them, you know, just do like previous administrations when they now call them back and now say, oh, we're still talking on the table. If they issue the strike warning and the government refuses to do anything about it, at least we know that they are going to go on that strike and hit the street. So I am saying that, well, this government has, you know, continued to draw renewed hope. So I'm saying perhaps we also need to renew our hope in the NLC and TUC and see and follow the stories and see how that goes.
So if this strike doesn't hold now, because from you know, unconfirmed news that we've been having, there seems to be a lot of meeting going on already with the NLC people, so to say. But if this strike does not go on, like they said, because I'm not advocating for the strike in any way, but what does this mean for Nigerians if this strike doesn't go through and then we're not seeing nothing done about the fuel subsidy removal? What does this mean for Nigerians and also for the NLC, their perception?
Okay, so from what I don't think if I got the question well, but from what I'm getting, you're asking the effects of the strike, and
if they don't go through with this, what will happen? How would Nigeria see them at the end of the day? What would this mean if NLC doesn't go through with the strike?
Well, I think that for the Nigerian people, it has been, you know, years and decades of failed promises and, you know, failed assurances. So I don't think Nigerians would be surprised if NLC fails to, you know, stand by their words. I think that they will just, oh, well, we knew it before it's coming, and we just, as we always do, just move on with our lives, because, I mean, Nigerians seem to be very resilient, and for that resilience should not be taken for granted by any means.
Okay, Debbie. Now, if what should be on the table now as the way forward? A lot of analysts, as like you, have also disapproved of the palliatives that, you know, is being shared by the states and all. So what should be the way forward here?
Well, the way forward, I always say that when policies do not work, you revisit them and see what's wrong with that policy. So I would say that we saw what happened in Kenya. Kenya removed fuel subsidy. The masses, there were lots of protests, and they revolted. They went back and said, okay, you know what, we're going to reinstall this for subsidy. We were going to start paying for subsidy again. So I think that, a government that truly cares about its people should not be afraid or should not allow its ego to, go before their decision-making process. If it's not working, it's not working. You go back and review it and sit down.
In reviewing it, hello? Debbie, are you there?
Kind of having
okay, it appears that we've lost
technical hitch.
Debbie there. But the point, I think, if I get her right.
Hello?
Okay,
yes,
Debbie's back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so in reviewing this, are you in any way saying that the government should perhaps go back to the payment of subsidy regime?
Absolutely. I think the government should not just pay for subsidy, but they should also, prosecute to find out those oil thieves and prosecute them. Because I remember in the president's speech a couple of, some time back, he said that he made reference to names, people. I'm like, what are those people that cannot be named? And beyond that, because if you look at the Nigeria as a country, what exactly do we benefit as a country? We don't have good roads, electricity is bad. The only thing we were literally benefiting was that fuel subsidy. The system needs to be fixed. We start paying for subsidy, and then we fix our refineries, and then when the refineries start to work, then we can consider removing fuel subsidy. But you cannot remove fuel subsidy when you don't have working refineries and you expect everything to just fall in place and work. No, that's not how things work. So from my position, restore the fuel subsidy, prosecute and arrest the oil thieves since they don't have names. And then, start building the refineries. And I'll remind you that he said one refinery will be ready by December. And I mean, we're already in the Ember month. So we're also looking forward to see that. And let's lessen the burden on the people for once at least. Let's try and do that. Because
part of the recommendations, or I would say the issues that the NLC is putting on the table, is for the government to review the minimum wage. Do you think that if the government, goes ahead to review the minimum wage, that will be enough to assuage the workers?
I would say that's one thing. And I would say it's just one thing out of a number of things, because yes, you're reviewing the minimum wage upward, but at the same time you know that things are high, so the impact is not going to be felt so much. And for me, my perspective when I listen to these issues and discussion is almost as if there is no proper planning and structuring. It's almost as if there is no sincerity of purpose in the way our leaders, conduct their activities. Because before they removed fuel subsidy, we were already, clamoring for an upward review of minimum wage. So if they want to review the minimum wage upward, then that means we'll be talking about times whatever it was we were requesting before for subsidy removal, because there are harsh economic realities on ground. Now productivity is at low, and the economy is struggling, and you cannot just do one thing and leave the others. It's a chain reaction. You have to consistently, and thankfully they have the ministers now on ground, and other state governments have their commissioners and whatnot. So hopefully they are able to put their acts together and get the job done. But if not, I mean, the NLC and the TUC strike is very well, necessary.
Okay,
very much necessary.
One final question, Debbie, before you go. Now, at the end of the day, if this strike goes on and we still see workers halt activities, and at the end of the day, the government doesn't do anything about it, what should the NLC be hammering on? Because we heard the president say one time that no matter how you go on strike and protest, we will not pay fuel subsidy. So what should we be pressing home at this point if that doesn't happen?
I mean, the president can say what he wants to say, but I think that the president also needs to remember that he is in a democracy, and the will of the people is what should always go before whatever decision the president is making. And this is one of the problems we have in the African continent. So when we now begin to see rise in some of the issues we're seeing in Africa, we begin to wonder as if it's magic. We're surprised. International communities are all of a sudden surprised democracy is suffering. But when Museveni is in state for 37 years, they don't know that democracy is suffering. When Paul Biya is in state for how long now? They don't know that democracy is suffering. It's because our leaders always put their interests ahead of the interests of the people. So I would say that it is in the interest of the president himself to act right and act in the interest of the people, and not be flexing muscles and be saying that whether no matter what we do or no matter what NLC or TUC does, they're not going to remove the subsidy. That's very insensitive with the economic realities that are on ground. It's almost as if they are living in an echo chamber that they cannot hear what the people are clamoring and asking for. But
the provision for paying subsidy is not in this budget. So would you say that the president is being inconsiderate at this point?
Okay, so I would say that we at least had 1 month before we transitioned into the removal of paying or removal of subsidy, right? Because but the president came on board. I don't know whether he was too excited and during his swearing in, and decided that the best thing to do is to announce the removal of subsidy. And then Nigerians went into that they were thrown into that chaos without being properly prepared. We at least we're supposed to have 1 month. That's one. There are no monies because it was not included in the budget. But somehow our leaders always have a way to find 70 billion for themselves when they want to, enrich their pockets. They have a way to, after sitting and doing what they call the screening, which now we are hearing that someone does not have an NYSC certificate. They said they needed 2 million naira to come on now. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous at this point. So I am of the opinion that if they want to pay that for subsidy, they can and they will there. So we've already talked about cutting cost of governance. Has anything been done to cut the cost of governance? No. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu decided that we needed 45 ministers despite the clamor for cost of governance. So I mean, at this point, it's almost insulting to the average Nigerian when the average Nigerian just sits down and see all that is going on there.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Debbie Yusuf from the Society for Social Justice. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning. We look forward to having you again. We appreciate it.
Thank you.